Hello everyone, and welcome to the Self-Directed Learning and Higher Education video series, module on motivation theories, fostering student learning motivation through a self-reinforcing flywheel model, based on the academic courseware by Professor Shihmin. In modern higher education, particularly within English as a medium of instruction or EMI courses, university instructors face a persistent dilemma. Students often struggle with simultaneous academic and linguistic demands, causing self-confidence to deteriorate rapidly. Over the next 10 to 12 minutes, we will examine self-determination theory, self-efficacy theory, attribution mechanisms, growth mindset, expectancy theory, multiplicative structures, instrumentality fractures, EMI negative valence remedies, and the complete six-stage self-reinforcing flywheel. Let's step into the dynamics of student motivation. We begin on the top left card by analyzing the systemic motivation challenge in higher education. EMI students face a double burden, grasping complex domain knowledge while processing instructions in a non-native language. When students encounter repeated academic setbacks without sufficient scaffolding, their self-efficacy declines, leading to passive disengagement. Single-theory solutions, such as relying solely on extrinsic grade incentives or preaching growth mindset, fail because they treat isolated symptoms rather than the underlying dynamic system. The complementary flywheel model provides a holistic solution by organizing environmental factors, cognitive interpretations, and behavioral decision rules into a self-reinforcing cycle. Moving to the top middle card, we examine self-determination theory, developed by Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. SDT answers the fundamental question, why do students want to learn? It establishes three basic psychological needs: autonomy, relatedness, and competence. In our flywheel architecture, SDT serves as the essential environmental soil. Autonomy represents volition and genuine choice. When instructors offer choices in project topics, presentation formats, or difficulty tiers, students select tasks where success is meaningful. Thus, autonomy acts as the direct upper antecedent of mastery experiences. Meanwhile, relatedness fosters belonging and mutual trust among peers, allowing students to identify with classmates and turning peer accomplishments into relevant vicarious experiences. On the top right card, Organismic integration theory provides a dynamic perspective on motivation through its internalization continuum. Motivation is not a simple binary state between intrinsic and extrinsic. Instead, it ranges along a continuous spectrum, from external regulation, driven purely by compliance and grades, to introject regulation based on guilt or pride, to identified and integrated regulation, where learning aligns with personal values, and finally, to intrinsic motivation, driven by inherent enjoyment and curiosity. In university coursework, expecting every student to possess pure intrinsic motivation from day one is unrealistic. The true objective of effective instructional design is to create environmental conditions that scaffold the progressive step-by-step internalization of external academic requirements into self-endorsed personal commitments. Transitioning to the middle row on the left, we examine Albert Bandura's self-efficacy theory. Self-efficacy answers the vital question, do I believe I can perform this specific task? Bandura identified 4 efficacy sources organized by influence hierarchy. Mastery experience is the most potent source because direct success proves capability to the mind. Its upper antecedent is autonomy. Vicarious experience comes from observing similar peers succeed, dependent on relatedness to ensure peer identification. Verbal persuasion involves encouragement from trusted instructors or peers, requiring relatedness for credibility. Finally, emotional and physiological states represent how arousal is interpreted, which is governed by mindset. Critically, self-efficacy is task-specific. Students may exhibit high efficacy in quantitative analysis, yet feel completely overwhelmed by EMI oral presentations. In the center card of our blueprint lies Bernard Wiener's attribution theory, acting as our first transmission gear. Raw accomplishments or failures do not directly alter self-efficacy. Rather, the subjective interpretation of those outcomes dictates psychological change. Wiener categorized attributions along three dimensions: locus of causality, stability, and controllability. If a student attributes failure to an internal, stable, and uncontrollable factor, such as innate talent, their self-efficacy crumbles. Conversely, when guided to attribute outcomes to internal, unstable, and controllable factors, such as effort, strategy, and preparation, students maintain motivation to improve. Therefore, attribution functions as a mechanical transmission gear, converting raw learning experiences into positive belief modifications. On the middle right card, Carol Dweck's mindset theory serves as the psychological bedrock underpinning both self-efficacy and expectancy. Students holding a growth mindset believe that abilities expand through effort, effective strategies, and perseverance. Those with a fixed mindset view intelligence as a static, unchangeable trait. Mindset operates through three crucial impact channels. First, it imparts resilience to self-efficacy beliefs, allowing students to bounce back after academic setbacks. Second, it fortifies expectancy by reinforcing the conviction that effort directly improves performance. Third, it recodes physiological arousal. A growth mindset interprets a racing heartbeat before a public speech as readiness and excitement, whereas a fixed mindset decodes the exact same sensation as paralyzing fear and inadequacy. Moving to the bottom row on the left, we analyze Victor Vierum's expectancy theory. While self-efficacy builds confidence, VIE translates that confidence into active behavioral decisions. Vierum formulated motivation as a multiplicative equation. Motivation equals expectancy times instrumentality times valence. Expectancy evaluates effort to performance probability, heavily strengthened by self-efficacy and growth mindset. Instrumentality measures the performance to reward connection, requiring clear and fair assessment systems. Valence represents the subjective value of the anticipated outcome, ranging from -1 to +1. Because of this multiplicative structure, if any single factor drops to 0, total motivation immediately collapses. This explains why capable students often remain disengaged when rewards feel meaningless or unachievable. On the bottom middle card, we address practical VE fractures in university instruction. Instrumentality frequently breaks due to group project freerider issues, where disengaged members receive identical grades, severing the link between individual performance and reward. Opaque evaluation criteria similarly destroy instrumentality. In EMI environments, a dangerous phenomenon is negative valence, where valence drops below 0. Fixed mindset students may view public English speaking as a high-risk trap, where failure results in public embarrassment. For these students, avoiding social humiliation becomes far more important than earning academic credit, leading to active evasion. Instructors must neutralize negative valence by establishing psychological safety and implementing transparent individual accountability. Finally, on the bottom right card, we synthesize these components into the complete 6-stage self-reinforcing flywheel model. Stage 1 establishes the soil through SDT autonomy and relatedness in classroom design. Stage 2 yields experience as students accumulate mastery, vicarious, and verbal efficacy accomplishments. Stage 3 applies interpretation, where structured attribution channels outcomes into effort and strategy. Stage 4 activates bedrock, embedding a growth mindset that fortifies expectancy beliefs. Stage 5 triggers action, as the VIE multiplicative equation transforms psychological readiness into active learning. Finally, Stage 6 delivers outcome feedback, where performance results feed directly back into Stage 2 as new mastery experiences. To summarize our lecture today, effective instructional design is about making clear environmental choices, building supportive peer relationships, guiding controllable attributions, and setting self-reinforcing learning flywheels into motion. Thank you for joining this SDL lecture on motivation theories with Professor Shihmin. Keep learning, stay motivated, and I will see you in the next module.